From musicians and entertainers to icons and changemakers, I've talked with some pretty fascinating people with some amazing stories. I'm Wisdom Martin, and I'm giving you an inside look and a candid conversation with some of the biggest movers and shakers. It is time for a moment of wisdom, and I have right here one of my good friends. This is R&B sensation Kevin Ross. I mean, thank you for coming in and talking with me, because I love your music.
Thank you.
You know that, because every time I see you, I tell you that. It is great music, and you're just a phenomenal talent. So tell me about how you've managed to be successful and consistent for such a long period of time, because I know you're not an old man, but you've been doing this for a while.
I'm not new to it at all. So I've been independent for the last 5 years. And so that's definitely helped with my workflow, consistency, having the freedom to put out music whenever I wanted to, making sure that I'm intentional about the messaging of it, making sure that I understood the places that my music needed to be, staying on the road, touring, stuff like that, and just really building kind of a direct-to-consumer relationship with the audience, so that there's no barrier, there's no middleman in between me and the audience. They can speak to me as far as on Instagram or social media, Kevin Ross Music for all social media handles. But yeah, to make sure that they feel connected to me, and I think that's the biggest thing of, I guess, the key to my consistency and being in music for this long. It's been 11 years since, I think, of music paying all of my bills. So I really take that as a big accomplishment and a big key and indicator of success for me.
Right. You were born and raised here in the DMV.
Yes, that's right.
How did that shape you and help get you on a path to where you are right now?
Little did I know that DC and its entrepreneurial spirit would be all in my DNA. So when I was younger, you had clothing brands like Hobo and We Are One and Shooters and Saviato. And why do I know all these things? Because I was a big person on just kind of like being of the culture, being of the city, and, you know, spending my money and making sure that I looked the part. And so we wore those brands as if they were Gucci or Fendi or Louis or whatever. And so that's where I got it from, as far as the hustle and making sure that no matter if it's something that is just within the city, that you make sure that it's branded right, that it's marketed right, you wear it with pride, you rock it with pride. And so I take that with me everywhere I go.
What about getting started in music? How'd you get started? Did you just wake up one day when you were a kid and start singing and they said, okay, you got it?
Oh,
how did that work?
No. I was super quiet. I was super shy, very reserved. My father sang. He sang all over the city. What's up, Pops? But he sang all over the city at weddings and churches and stuff like that. And so I would be with him all the time. And so I would sing around the house. And so they knew that I had a little voice. And then, you know, in school, I would do choir, and then choir turned into honors course, and the honors course turned into singing in church. Then singing in church went to auditioning for Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And that's kind of when things made a shift, right around 13, 14 years old. And then from there, I decided, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Music is the path. How am I going to do that? I don't know. But what I would soon find out is writing would be the key to kind of opening up doors within the music industry for me. Right.
One of your songs when you first came out, I remember, I'll never forget it, and I was like, that's Kevin Ross. And Michelle Obama was loving one of your songs, and I'll never forget that. How does it make you feel when people respond to your music and they're like, okay, this is either a hit, or I love this song, or they tell you, man, this makes me feel some kind of way?
It's surreal, especially like certain celebrities or athletes that like listen to my music. So I remember seeing Dwayne Wade. He's on vacation and he's listening to a record of mine called Sweet Release, or Kelly Rowland, or, you know, different people that have taken in my music, and I'm like, where did they even find me, or where did they find this music at? So it's really wild to me of how music travels and how it carries and how it hits people, and how they consume the music, whether that is on vacation, whether it's through just kind of a quiet moment, or whether it's partying or whatever. So it's humbling, and it encourages me to keep going.
Right. Is creativity the reason that you do this? Or is there something else inside you that says, okay, this is why I do what I do?
The reason why I do what I do is because I was built to do it, right? Like if I live to see it, I was made to do it. I consider myself an instrument. And so if I'm an instrument, then I'm just a vessel. And so I have to remain open and focused in order for God to kind of use me to put out certain messages. And so I feel blessed because being an instrument, being a vessel, provides for my family. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be creative. So, yeah.
You mentioned family.
Yes.
You're kind of a new dad.
Yes. Papa Ross.
Papa Ross.
Papa Ross.
How's that going for you, Papa Ross? What's this whole experience been like being a dad? Because now you're not just singing for you, like you said. You got to sing for the whole family. You got to feed everybody now.
Yes. So my son is 2 years old. His name is KJ, Kevin Jr. And so right now we're in the phase of potty training.
Good times.
Getting him into daycare full time.
Even better times.
Oh my gosh. You know, if I thought that I baby-proofed the whole house, I was wrong. He's taller now, he's faster now, he's stronger, he's just, you know, he's an amazing kid. So smart. He knows his ABCs, his 1, 2, 3s, his shapes, his days of the week, his months of the year already. So he's really, really sharp. I can't take credit for that. I think he gets that from his mother.
Well, see, I take credit for everything that goes on in my house. That's positive, right?
For sure.
He got it from me. It ain't negative stuff. Somebody else's DNA. But yeah. So, how's this whole experience been? How's it changed you?
Oh my gosh, it makes me more intentional. It makes me more focused. It keeps me sharp. I take a lot more vitamins now. I do a lot more IVs on the weekend now to stay hydrated, for sure. But this is the focus that I needed. This is the scheduling, and just as far as like a man with purpose. Not to say that I didn't have purpose before, but this is just a completely different world as it pertains to having a child and looking at him and saying, okay, whether I felt like I wanted to go to work or not, or whether I felt like I wanted to fly on a plane and do a show, how I feel doesn't necessarily matter anymore. And it's more so about to say, okay, bigger than the money is to say, okay, I want to provide for my child, but to also let him know that contingent upon whatever the circumstance is, that you still have to show up. And I'm gonna show up for my son, I'm gonna show up for my family, I'm gonna show up for the people that support me, and I hope that you show up to that Valentine's Day show, February 14th and 15th, small plug, Birchmere, yes.
As far as balancing everything,
yes.
How's that work for you, balancing music on the road and family? How do you get all that together?
Yet again, just being intentional, making sure that I have clear communication with everybody that's involved with, you know, whether that's to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock, I'm going to pray, and this will be a little bit of time before KJ wakes up, take him to daycare, and then I know I have a certain amount of hours to do the things that I need to do. So whether that's clean up the house, run errands, studio for a couple of hours, pick him up, and you know, we do it all over again.
Because I know you told me you used to be in the studio for hours.
Hours on end.
And now it's like, now I got to shrink that down because I got to take care of the family.
And you can't overthink it. You know, I can't overthink my process anymore, which has been a blessing in disguise too, because it allows for me to really depend on that second nature of creativity. And so, yeah, I think that it's been a blessing as it pertains to just family life and balancing. I'm still learning.
Right.
As he grows and as he gets older, I have to adjust. Just when I think that I've mastered everything, then it's like, oh, he's in a different place. And so I always have to adjust, but it keeps me on my toes, right? So there's never a dull day. So,
right.
Yeah.
Here at this station, one of the things we talk about is inspire, inform, and impact. And a lot of people will see your journey and they'll see you being successful.
Yeah.
And they will say, well, that's easy. Because a lot of times people see that and they say, well, didn't go through anything, never had to overcome anything, never had to deal with anything. He's just automatically successful. Just started singing and now he's rich and famous.
Oh, no.
Reality is that's not the case.
Yes.
As far as people who are out there dealing with whatever they're dealing with, trying to overcome, what kind of conversation or what kind of words to inspire, inform, and impact would you give them based on the things that you've been through?
You have to show up to work every day. And so what I mean by that is if you have the privilege and the gift that God has given you, so whether you are a singer, a dancer, a DJ, an actor, whatever you are as far as within the creative community, even outside of creativity. But you do have to show up and be present, no matter what time of day or whatever time allotted that you're given. You have to make sure that you show up, even if you feel like you're not inspired. You have to sit in a place to say, okay, I'm ready to receive something. I'm ready to do something, to continue to build, because it is not an overnight success. Even for people that you feel like was relatively unknown and then they just shoot up to the stars, their story probably starts years and years prior to the world actually knowing them. And so I want for people to stay motivated. I want for them to understand that it's okay if the world doesn't understand you, but that doesn't mean that the world doesn't need your art. And so that's the most important thing, is that we have to understand that we're all necessary to this. It doesn't work without one another. It doesn't work without us inspiring one another. So we're the thing that moves the culture, that moves the needle. So keep going, stay encouraged, and know that you are loved and we're rooting for you.
All right. You know what? That's a perfect way to end on those words of wisdom, moment of wisdom with Kevin Ross. Continued success to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you spending time with me. Footloose, A Few Good Men, X-Men First Class. We're talking about movie star and actor Kevin Bacon because he's been a Hollywood success since 1978. But did you know he's also big into music? He and his brother, Michael, have spent the last 3 decades making their own mix of folk, rock, soul, and country. I had a conversation with the Bacon brothers to learn more about their latest album and their musical journey. Tell me about the latest music, which is Ballad of Brothers, and the tour.
So I was really kind of delighted when the record company, our new record company, said we want a real CD. Only trouble was we only had 6 songs at that time. So fairly soon after that, we really had to start to scramble to make, a 10 or 11 song, CD format. And we got into the studio, all of us together, which we very, very rarely do. And it's also one of the most fun things to do. It's just, you have a whole day and you're with your friends and you're with a fantastic recording studio, and you work for an hour and then you eat lunch, and then you work for another hour, you have a cup of coffee, then you have ice cream and so on. But it's a blast. So we were able to, in one day, pretty much record 5 new songs to put with the previous 6. And I think that was a really, by necessity, kind of a fun outcome for all of us. I think we really enjoyed doing that.
Kevin, go ahead. Kevin, you want to add anything to that?
I just love that your favorite part of the studio is lunch and ice cream.
I could go on too.
that is the composing and everything you guys have done, and it's ice cream. Ice cream and lunch. So you two have been playing music since you were kids. In Philadelphia, coming up, and that was a while ago. How did you get started? Did you just pick up some instruments? Did the 2 brothers pick up some instruments and started playing and singing, and then it just took off from there?
We had very different entries into music in that kind of way. I mean, we had a household where our parents were very, very supportive of any kind of creative expression, whatever it happened to be. But in Michael's case, he started taking music lessons and learned to read music at a very young age, and was in the orchestra and was playing classical music and, cello and oboe, and had a lot of training. In my case, I just saw what my older brother was doing. By the time I came along, he had kind of moved out of the sort of classical instruments and was a guitar player and a songwriter. So I saw that and I was like, well, that looks kind of cool. Let me see if I can write songs. And so my thing was just like, I never took lessons when I was a kid, and I didn't practice. And I just kind of, looked at it as, something fun to do that my older brother was doing.
And the brothers get together, eventually got together and put together a band. How did that come together? I mean, you're kids, you're playing, Michael's composing and doing his thing. And then at some point, you guys got together in the mid 90s or late 90s and put together a band and started making albums and music. How did that all happen?
Well, I think I'd go back again. I'm 9 years older than Kevin. So let's see. So by the time he was 4, I'm now 12, I guess. My math is correct. We were playing music together. And our older sister, Hilda, still is a really fantastic musician. She doesn't write songs, but she's a beautiful guitar player and a singer. And we had a jug band. And we would rehearse in the basement, and Kevin would sit on the top of the stairs in the basement and listen. So later we started, I realized when he would sing me songs he'd written, and he didn't know how to play the guitar, but he would just sing me the melody and the lyrics, that he had, really kind of a gift. And I was happy to, write chords for it, help him arrange it. Later on, we would go into the studio and we started recording songs for purpose of getting rich quick, I would say. Trying to write a country song, country hit, a pop hit, something for Michael Jackson. Later on, when Kevin was starting to get into films, we would write films to submit to his producers, and hopefully nothing ever happened, but we would try. So when as he spoke about the 90s, whatever, mid 90s, I don't even remember when it was, a friend of Kevin's who we all kind of grew up with, he was really Kevin's best friend, heard a demo that we had made in my studio and liked it. And he was working in a club in Philly at the time. And he said, why don't you come down to the club, put a band together and do a gig as the Bacon Brothers. And for some reason, we decided to do that. So we did the one gig, and then up and down the East Coast at that time, I grew up in the coffee house scene where everybody drank coffee. And now these little music places were sort of morphing into bars. And there was sort of a network up and down the East Coast, and they communicate with each other. And somehow the word got out that, people came to the show mostly to see my brother, but also that we could play. It wasn't a joke or a movie star fantasy. And it just kind of grew from there.
I have more with the Bacon Brothers coming up after the break. Welcome back to A Moment of Wisdom. Here's more of my conversation with the Bacon Brothers about their songwriting and their music careers. So where do you draw your inspiration from?
That's really interesting. When it comes to songwriting, you really don't. It's really hard to. I wish I could bottle where the songwriting piece of it comes from, because then you just go there and write a song every day. Neither one of us are songwriters who carve out an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours every day and say, I just got to write something. So where it comes from, I don't know. Sometimes it's an experience that you have that's like super personal. It's a mood. It's something you see, something you read about, a line in a book. Sometimes for me, it comes from listening to a great song. Like if I hear a great song, sometimes I'll go, okay, I don't want to try to write that song, you know what I mean? But I want to try to write something, because both of us really, really love songs, great songs. And when it comes to what we call the first record, Foro Soko, folk rock soul country, it was kind of a joke as to, this combination. I would point out that my favorite record right now is the ultimate Foro Soko, and that is Cowboy Carter. Beyonce's new record is folk rock soul country, like in such a great way. And if there's a section in the record store for Foro Soko, definitely have a Bacon Brothers record and Cowboy Carter next to each other. We
only took 50 years.
Yeah, we're not married to one sort of thing. We don't just say, okay, the song's gotta sound like this. And I think that, I think it's exciting that you know, an artist with the kind of reach that she has is really kind of embracing that idea, you know.
That's cool. I would say my favorite songs that I've ever written were just things where I'm just bored and I have my guitar and I pick it up and I play and I put it down, come back an hour later, pick it up, play, and all of a sudden, the fifth time, something happens. And as Kevin, I think, described it very well, you can't buy that spot. You can't make it happen.
What do you hope they take away from listening to your music and seeing your show? And this latest project that you're working on, Ballad of Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, we're not a cover band. We're a songwriting band, and so really our whole show and our record is all about, okay, here's an experience that we had, or here's an idea that we had, or as Michael pointed out, here's something that we got together with some other writers and wrote. We're going to put this song across for you, and you see how you respond to the song. I mean, I think that we have an amazing band. So, you know, even if you don't like the songs or you like some better than others, the musicianship of the group is really strong. And there's a wide variety of stuff that's being played, because some things are, you know, pretty much just acoustic guitars and a little bit of mandolin and vocals, and some things are full on rock songs, you know, and there's cello and there's auto harp and there's electric guitars and acoustic guitars and drums and percussion and harmonicas, and there's like a whole bunch. It's like a music store up there. So I think there's going to be a lot of variety, and we'd like to have a good time, and we hope that there's something for everybody.
Okay. All right. Michael, you want to add to that?
I think when people come to hear us, they are kind of intrigued that two people in the same family are on stage playing and singing songs they wrote. The best shows to me are when I feel no scrim between me and the audience, where it just feels like we're just in our living room, you know, with our four sisters and our families, and we're just, you know, drinking a beer and passing the guitar around. And when that feels that way, that's a really good feeling. So I try to make it that way every night. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't.
Michael, you're an Emmy Award-winning composer. Kevin, you're an A-list actor. You're on that stage, both very creative, and it talks about on your website about the highlights that make you guys work as a team and the differences as well. So talk real quick before we run out of time a little bit about that.
We come from the same, you know, DNA, right? We have the same parents, so there's a lot of things that are common. And some basic core, I think, values that our parents kind of instilled in us of you know, respect and I don't know, compassion, just to name a few, honesty. But we're also super, super different. For one thing, there's 9 years between us, and that's enough of a gap to have a really different kind of life experience and a different relationship to our parents and to our family and the whole thing, and also to music. And so I think that creates a certain good kind of creative tension. I mean, I'll often joke that if I want to know what Michael's going to order for dinner, I go to the restaurant and I pick the thing that I would be the least likely to get on the menu. And you know, there's a lot of things that we have differing opinions about, but there's this kind of core bond that I think carries over to the show and to the music.
One of the things musically is, when I was in my let's say late teens, the world blew up, 1965. I mean, and Kevin at that point was a little kid, and his musical experience was very different than mine, because the whole world changed so much musically, and then the British invasion. So also the other thing is, our parents had already had 5 children they'd raised, and all of a sudden Kevin comes along and they're like, whatever. So I think that he probably had a little more freedom to use Philadelphia as a real nest for his musical ideas.
Both of you. I'll give both of you the last word on the concert, your music, your new album.
We love the Birchmere. We played there, I don't know. I think we played there more than we played anywhere else. It's a great venue. The sound is fantastic. We always love playing there.
I love going to the museums. I love Alexandria, and as Kevin says, it's probably the best club in the world, bar none, really.
Fun fact, the Bacon brothers told me their sister Eleanor actually helped to develop the wharf in D.C., so they feel very at home when they come to Washington. I'm Wisdom Martin. Thank you for watching.